let's get into this video and let's talk about the beautiful British Columbia, or as it was once said, the best place on earth, British Columbia. The first question that people always ask or say is, how am I going to manage if the cost of living is more expensive and this person is coming by themselves? Yes, the cost of living in British Columbia is more, but here's the trick. Here's the thing that many persons do not realize. The cost of living in BC is more when you are in the city area, such as the lower mainland. BC is a big place, it's a big province, but the problem is many of you, or many of persons who are coming like myself, we come to most of the places that we know, like Vancouver. You know, we choose schools that are in the downtown city area. If you are coming and you don't mind going, maybe not in the city but outside, like other areas, there is Okanagan, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, UBC, University of British Columbia, they have a campus there. You have Selkirk, and those Selkirk College, the cost to study there is reasonable, it is cheap. Cost of living there is lower than it is in the mainland, so you can get houses in Selkirk, Okanagan, you know, those places further out, Kelowna, those places further out in BC. It's not so far, right? Because you can always take, you know, a plane and come back to the lower mainland, or you can drive. People drive from here or there, but you know, it's a couple hours of driving, right? And you can live in those places in British Columbia. The weather is still not as bad as some other places like Alberta, right? Or Toronto. The weather is still good, right? And here's something that you need to know. You would be getting the minimum wage that the province provides, which is at least $15.65, while out paying, because you're not in this concentrated area, while paying rent at a more affordable price, right? So if you want to come to BC, you want to capitalize on cost of living, you can do so by going to the other places. You have so many other beautiful places. I heard that there's this place in Okanagan where when you go there, the water is blue and pretty like any Caribbean water. So like, it's not just the lower mainland, there's other places in British Columbia that you can go. BC is a beautiful place, and there are cheaper places, if you don't know, in BC that you can go, and the schools there are cheaper just the same. So if you're worrying that, oh, you want to come to BC but the cost of living is too high, you don't have to go to the city. It's the same way like Ontario. You want to go to Ontario, but hey, they say cost of living is so high, you don't need to go to Mississauga or London or those places where, yeah, rent is going to be higher there. No, you want to go to places that the rent is affordable and you're still getting a good minimum wage at least for a good amount. Because you see, the thing is, when you go to somewhere like Newfoundland or New Brunswick, the minimum wage across that province is so low, and even if you're paying rent at a lower amount, you're still not getting more. Yes, you have a lower cost of living, but you're still earning a lower cent penny on the dollar. While you can choose a province that pays a good minimum wage, we're going to get more for it, and then you choose somewhere in that province where the cost of living is not really high. That's a win-win there. Yeah, what is rent like? So if you're in the lower mainland, like where I'm at, I currently pay $1,300 for rent, and that includes everything. And I am not as close in the city. I am like 2 hours away out of the city, right? But that is a price I'm willing to pay, because hey, I still get city life, and I pay a good fee for 2-bedroom and a bathroom, including all expenses, all utilities. Meanwhile, if you're willing to go further out, the further away you go, the less you pay for rent. So if you're coming here and you decide that, okay, you want to go to Okanagan, or you want to go to Selkirk or one of those other cities, well, you're not going to be paying $1,300 in rent. You're going to be paying maybe $600 do your research, use Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, and those other places. You can see that you get rent cheaper, because even in Vancouver, as expensive as rent can be in Vancouver for $2,000, trust me, you can find places in Vancouver for $600-700 where you can rent the room and you share the other kitchen area and things with other people if that's something you're okay with. So there's always a price for everyone. It just depends on what you want and what you don't want. So at the end of the day, rent, it can be cheaper for other places in the province. So if you're coming here, once again, don't just stick to the lower mainland. There's options. BC is very big. For job opportunities, British Columbia has a lot of opportunities, and one of the reasons it has a lot of opportunities, I always tell people, if you're an accountant, or it depends on what you do for a living, look on the province, right? Look on the province job bank or the job website, and look, even LinkedIn, look how many jobs are being posted in that province. I don't think it makes sense going to a province because, oh, the cost of living is less, but then at the end of the day, yes, this cost of living is less, but the opportunities are fewer, and you're not getting a chance to at least work to pay this lower cost of living. So I would recommend going to a province where there are opportunities in your specialty. Hint, hint, your specialty. Because while Toronto might need nurses and lawyers, BC probably do not need lawyers, or they probably do not need registered nurse, but hey, they have a shortage for healthcare aides or nurse aides, right? So if you're probably a nurse aide, then you can see, oh, BC has a shortage for healthcare aides, then go to BC. Do not pick a province where, yeah, they say, oh, they have opportunities, but maybe the opportunities is not in your field of expertise or what you're going to school to study. The opportunities when you're finished is not what you want. Okay, so I would say BC has a lot of opportunities. Just ensure that opportunities that you are looking for are what is here. Why BC? The weather. I don't have to talk about this. Like, the weather is better than a lot of places in Canada. You will not get this nice weather anywhere else. However, a con to this is that while maybe in Calgary when it is snowing it might still look bright and nice outside, in BC our weather is normally gloomy. So even though it's not as cold, BC is normally overcast, so a lot of times it will look dark, it will look gloomy. So if you're someone who you don't want the cold but you don't mind your surrounding looking gloomy and dark, then BC is the place for you. Not saying that we don't have days when the sun is bright and it's nice outside, we do, but those days are few. I'm gonna be honest with you, those days there are not many, there are few. So when they say, oh, BC the weather is nice in terms of compared to the cold when it's winter, yes, it's not as cold, but at the same time it can be gloomy, it can be very gloomy. And if you're someone who the weather affects your mood, probably the lower mainland of BC is not for you. Meanwhile, Kelowna, Okanagan and those other places, they don't have this gloominess like how we have this gloominess down here. I don't know what's happening, but then, like I say, you can look into those other locations and areas, and the same thing you would do if you're looking for job opportunities. Narrow it down to the area or region that you're going. A lot of people do not talk about this, but each province, every province is so big. It's bigger than just, oh, BC having Vancouver and the lower mainland. Similarly to Ontario, it's bigger than just Toronto, Brampton, London, right? You have other places in Toronto like Thunder Bay, you know, those rural areas. Sometimes it is said that the opportunities out there are less, but if you have If your career path is in something that is needed there, then the opportunities won't be less for you, it will be better for you. So if you're someone who wants to go to a big city, but you don't want to be in the big city, but you want to be close by, think about BC, think about Ontario, but go to the rural areas. And another plus with British Columbia, if you don't know, the PNP pathway right here. A lot of people don't understand our PNP pathway, but our PNP pathway is so easy. It's one of the simplest. It's when they started BC's PNP pathway, it was just a temporary pathway that became permanent because of the need, right? So if you are someone that's going to be in healthcare, tech, engineering, you know, even nurse aides, you can get permanent residence through the province here in British Columbia, and you don't have to be in the lower mainland. You can be out further up north in BC, right, closer to the Alberta border, and you still have a chance to get permanent residence here. With the permanent residence also, if you come here to study something in STEM, you have the international school pathway. So once you're finished studying your 2-year program and it was in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, then you can become a permanent resident of British Columbia just like that, right? If you're looking to come here maybe on a work program and you have the skills needed in STEM, you can do this using the rural pathway also and other pathways. If you are an international student, you can get PR easily after doing STEM programs, right? But if you do something in business, you won't be eligible for this international pathway. There are so many different pathways. They have the entrepreneur just like other provinces. Another thing about British Columbia, many persons don't like this about it, is that with British Columbia you have to pay $75 for MSP. It's a medical service fee that we pay as international students. Only international students pay this fee. However, for some persons or for some other provinces it is free. I think Alberta is free, you don't pay any money, but BC we pay $75. This $75, for some people might say, "Ooh, this is a lot." Some people might say, "Okay, they don't mind," because with this $75, you are covered for everything you can possibly think of, right? You're covered for most things, and it's good to have insurance where you are covered for most things. But even the other provinces that it's free, they are covered for most things, so maybe it's a con in your eyes, but for me it's just a cost that you pay for, I would say, for nicer weather, for the best place to be on earth, right? The most expensive thing in British Columbia is the housing prices, and many persons you will see the different ads to say, "Oh, we have a housing crisis in British Columbia," but the truth is, if you're not in the lower mainland, you're not really having this crisis. So like I said again, BC is a nice place if you don't mind the housing crisis and this big boom and all of that, because everyone wants to be in the lower mainland, right? Then you can go to the other places in BC which is just as nice, and those houses down there are just as cheap or good as any other provinces. It's just like I said, supply and demand. You have more people in this area, they're going to charge you $1 million and odd if they can get you to pay it. Well, hey, if you go out there, you'll be paying in the low hundreds. At the end of the day, it's what you prefer. It's what depends on what you want. I normally, why I would say come to British Columbia, you don't want to leave Jamaica or another Caribbean island or somewhere else and say you're moving to Canada or the US, and then you come here and then you go somewhere that it is so cold, and then you have to adjust to that weather, because even here it's not that cold but you still have to adjust, right? So imagine when it's colder, right? Two, you don't want to move from Jamaica, which is an island, and then come to Canada and say you move to Canada and then are you really in Canada experiencing the city life, the life that it shows that, yeah, your girl ain't no longer in Jamaica, we've made it, that type of thing. You want to move to a province where when you're here, when you drive through those streets and you see those different houses and you see the life of, you're like, whoa. Because I remember when I just came, something I was like, whoa, I'm really here. Like, I'm really here. You don't want to move to somewhere where you still feel like you're there, yeah. BC is the place. BC means bring cash, carry money. But you have places where it's affordable. That's all I'm saying. You have places where it's affordable. At the end of the day, why I would not recommend or a smaller province that the minimum wage is low and cost of living is lower. You see, the provinces that cost of living is lower, they are going to pay you less. An electrical engineer in British Columbia might make a certain amount of money because you're in BC, right? Meanwhile, some same electrical engineer would make less because they are in Newfoundland, right? Because cost of living is lower. But hey, because you're in BC, you're going to make more as an electrical engineer, and you can choose where you go to live to spend the more that you're making. That's just it. Like, you making more, you don't have to stay in the city and spend all of that in rent and expenses. You can move outside the city. Yes, it might cost you a little bit more in terms of going to work and driving, but everybody wants more. Everybody wants, at the end of the day, your disposable is more. You don't want to be making less because of the location where you're at. And they say, oh, cost of living is lower, but then you still gotta buy food, you still gotta buy all these other things, and then when you check your disposable, you don't have much left. Food across Canada tends to be the same. It's not that much expensive, so you control that. At the end of the day, that's what you want. You want a higher disposable income, right? You can find places in the city or in British Columbia that is that level. At the end of the day, maybe you won't. That's just the truth. You won't get the same level of comfort. You can manage your costs, and at the end of the day, you can control the disposable that you have. With less coming in, even when less is going out, you're still going to have less. But with more coming in, even when more is going out, you still can have more, and you can always do other things. What I realized, smaller provinces, or not really smaller, but provinces that pay lower, they have less opportunities to do side things to make more money. Bigger cities and bigger areas, we have more opportunities to do so many things on the side to increase our income and our wealth. And for me, even though the city might be more expensive or whatever, at the end of the day, I have more opportunities to increase my wealth. And that's what matters. The disposable, the money to do whatever you want, the opportunity, if you feel like you want to have that nightlife balance, if you want, you have it, is there. A lot of the other provinces, I've heard people say, oh, they live in New Brunswick, but then they take the train over to Nova Scotia if they want that little nightlife. I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna go to Vancouver and go have my nightlife. I don't literally have to go to another province. So another thing is social life, nightlife is here. It's all here. At the end of the day, it's up to you and what you want. For me, in terms of my career, opportunities, nightlife balance, the cost of living, it was not a mistake. The most expensive thing here for me in British Columbia, I must say, is housing. Housing is really expensive, but at the end of the day, most engineering jobs, if you're doing it, is remote. I can choose to go to Kelowna, I can choose to go to Selkirk, or somewhere a little bit outside of the city. Even same way in the lower mainland, I can choose to go to other places in the lower mainland that has a more reasonable cost for housing, right? There is a way out. For example, there is other opportunities or other alternatives. It's not that bad, but it is expensive, because you would I know I would love to be living in the city, but I'm not gonna pay 2 mil, 3 mil for a house. That makes no sense. No. But I do want to enjoy the perks of being able to access and be in the city, and that comes with a lot of other benefits. So there you have it. At the end of the day, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for that work-life balance, go home, go back home, maybe the city is not for you. But there are other areas in BC that you can go and have that nice work-life balance. Okay, BC is big. You don't have to go all the way to Nova Scotia to get that nice work-life balance. It's here in BC. Plus the opportunity of higher minimum wage and salaries. You just won't stick to the lower mainland area. There's so many other places. And the fact that BC also, we have the island, Victoria Island. You don't have that in some other places where you just go and do tourist stuff. You know, just a plane ride away or a ferry ride away. You don't have that in those other places, in some other places, but you have it all here. Tourism right in your backyard. There's so many nice, beautiful places in BC. You don't gotta go far. It's so big, and nice opportunities. And if you want, it depends on the life you want. You want city life, we have that. You want that work-life balance, family life, it's here. And there are so many opportunities and options for schools here. You want something cheap, it's here. It's not too far away. Everything is perfect. The best place on earth. Everything is here. Like, it's here. BC. Just bring some cash and come on over to BC. See you in the next video. All the best to you on your journey. Bye.